Hey guys, welcome back to Digital Decoded. Today we're going to be talking about email templates and specifically for the B2B space. If you've ever done any email marketing in the past and all or most of your recipients are using Outlook, you've probably faced the challenge of trying to get your email client or email template to render correctly within the Outlook email client. Outlook presents one of the biggest challenges in terms of coding a template that will render correctly across the board. So you've got a very limited amount of HTML tags and CSS tags that it will respect. So right out of the box, Outlook does not respect media queries. So this makes it virtually impossible to create a responsive email template. And when you're presented with that challenge, it greatly limits your design layout options. Essentially, you pretty much have one option to go with, and that's a single column type email structure that will be not really responsive, but will render correctly on mobile and also Outlook. Unfortunately, Microsoft has decided to just keep its email client way back in the past. I would say it respects about the same amount of HTML tags, HTML and CSS tags, as the browser did back in 2005, probably a little earlier. So it makes it extremely difficult to generate an email template that will give you a sophisticated look while rendering correctly across the board for mobile and desktop. So we strongly suggest to our clients that if they're marketing in the B2B space and they know most of their clients are going to be receiving their emails on Outlook, is to stick to a very simple single column type layout structure, and to also really adhere to some very strict rules when generating their emails. And we can go through those as well. But I received two emails this morning that I think are perfect examples of this, and they're from pretty large companies. One's from Adobe and one's from iHeartRadio. And the Adobe email rendered beautifully in Outlook and in the browser. iHeartRadio, it kind of fell apart in Outlook, but rendered correctly in the browser. So I wanted to take a quick look at those with you so you can see the difference between them from viewing it in Outlook and viewing it in the browser, and talk about why this probably happened. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so we'll start off taking a look at the Adobe email template. And on the left-hand side here, we have the Adobe email in Outlook. And on the right, we have it in the browser. Let me see if I can turn my overlay off, or I'll just move it if I need to. So as you can see here, they're rendering pretty identical. We have the logo at the top, the date, the title of the article or the section, and it's looking really exact on both sides. Even the fonts are rendering the same. And as we scroll down, the only difference that I'm seeing now is in the browser version, I'm getting a radius and a specific width on the button. So that's one of those styles that Outlook just does not respect. It will not render radius styles. So now we're getting just a squared edged button here. Now there are some things you can do to kind of achieve the look on both, and that would be to use an image for the button instead of text with a style. So if they wanted to go another step forward, they could do that. But then you'd have to have an image for every button that you want to create, whether it was learn more, explore now, register, anything that you need for a button, you would have to have the image generated for that. So I think they went this route because they felt like, okay, we're fine with sacrificing a small style on the button to keep the flexibility of making the text anything we want as soon as we need it. So as we scroll down, we're seeing that it's all rendering the same. The images are not blown out or missized. Here we are, we got the radius on this image, but we don't here. So again, there's that radius style that just isn't respected within Outlook, but it is the browser. But overall, though, really great job. Hats off to them for achieving, an almost identical look between the browser and Outlook. That is definitely a difficult thing to do. So let's take a quick look at the iHeartRadio one here. Okay, so here we've got the iHeartRadio one loaded up. Same setup, Outlook on the left, the browser on the right. And as you can see right off the bat, we're seeing some huge discrepancies between the layouts and sizes of the images. And we've got some weird lines going on here within this area too. So as you can see here in the Outlook version, this image got blown out. It's probably because it's missing its width and height settings inlined with the image itself. Whereas they were expecting the either it's a div layout or a table layout to force the image at a specific size. So in the browser, you can get away with that. In Outlook, you can't. So that's why we're having this blown out layout here. Again, we've got the radius style being respected here and a square here. Again, that's just something you're going to have to either sacrifice or use an image button to achieve the same look. They've also got the radiuses here rendered, but not here. So you can achieve this look too in Outlook, but you have to set up your whole layout, and actually your table would have a little image in the top right, top left, and bottom right of a red curve. So it wouldn't be rendered by styles, but it would actually be an image being put into those corners. So again, you can achieve all of this, but you have to go old school because these styles were not available back then, and you have to kind of go back to the early days of HTML1 and tables to achieve the same look. And it's doable again, but just takes a bit more work to achieve. So as we scroll down now, we see a lot of issues going on now. We've lost our background color here to now it's red, and now it's hard to see the text. The Discover Now button now just looks like text. I don't think I can even, okay, yeah, I can click on it. The GIF now requires me to press play to even render the GIF here. That may be just a setting in your Outlook. I may have my settings set up to require, not autoplay, because generally GIFs will play in Outlook. But again, here we are now with the size of the GIF blown out and crushing this column over to the right. Always my biggest suggestion to a lot of people is they tend to not resize their images when building out their email. So whatever email editor you're working in, whatever platform you're working in, always resize your images to exactly the size you want them to render, because in the browser it will respect your general layout and force the image size to be what it needs to be. In Outlook, it's going to just blow them out to whatever it wants to. So always inline your styles with width and height, and also apply the standard old school width and height attribute. This is not a style, but it's just a width height attribute on the image. So you have both in place, really ensuring that image is going to stay at that size, and also sizing that image to exactly that size. So as we scroll down here, we've got this layout kind of working as it was supposed to, but again, huge loss of layout. Really, doesn't give me the professional confidence that I would normally get over here that they have their act together. So if you're B2B and you're sending out emails, you want to look like you have your act together and you want to make sure your emails render correctly on the client most B2B recipients are going to be using. So let's go ahead and jump back to the full video, and I'm going to go through some of the basics that we follow when generating an email template. Okay, so we saw those two emails side by side in both Outlook and on the browser, and as you could see, Adobe did a great job on achieving the same look and layout on both. iHeart kind of fell through on the Outlook side. Personally, I think iHeartRadio, really with the resources they have, should, be generating an email that looks good on both. I understand that most of their end users are probably B2C, but as big as they are, again, with the resources they have, they should have their act together on the Outlook side. But let's go ahead and talk about a few of the things that you can do to ensure your email is going to render correctly for your Outlook users. One of those is a simple layout structure. So don't try to create a multi-column structure for your email, even though sometimes when you're generating newsletters, you want like an image on the left and text on the right. If you want to go that route, just expect you're going to be doing a lot more work to achieve that layout. And when you're trying to go with these more advanced layouts, definitely use a email testing platform like Email on Acid or Litmus or one of the other ones out there. This way you can render your code through their system, and they'll output it visually on how it's going to look across the board with all of these major email clients. So that's a big one too. So just definitely use an email testing client or system to ensure that your template's going to work across the board. Resize your images. Don't stick a 5,000 pixel wide image in your email, in your email when you're building it out and expect it to render correctly. One, it probably isn't going to render correctly on the end user's Outlook. Two, it's just too big in file size. So if someone's on a mobile device and they're waiting for an image that can be used for print to download, you've already lost their attention and they're closing your email. Also add your width and height attributes in both the styles and also as the standard element attributes within your images. Use tables as much as possible instead of divs. This way it's going to be a little bit more bulletproof when it renders on Outlook. I know it's an old school way of developing, but it's the only way to really ensure your emails are going to look good in Outlook. It's definitely a dying skill set, since that was kind of the way to design and develop web pages back in the early 2000s, middle 2000s, I would say. But you can find developers that still know how to do that. Guys like me who have been doing this for over 22 years, we've got that skill still in our archives that we can dust off and bring back to the table when we have to create these email templates. Other thing is inline styles. So normally you would set up all your styles in your head of your template, but you'll also want to push those to the inline code. That's you can do either manually, which is kind of laborious, or there's some tools out there. I know MailChimp has a tool that you can paste in your template code that has all the styles in the head, and it would output another version with all of them inlined as well. So that's pretty important to do. A lot of these email marketing systems will do that for you. So you just got to dig through their documentation and see if that's something that they'll do as part of the final output to push the email out. Also start with a boilerplate that has a lot of overrides already in place. Again, MailChimp has one on their GitHub that is a great boilerplate that I know is used across many other platforms. I know Pardot uses their boilerplate template for their basic email templates that you can run out of their system. If you're in Pardot and you go to the HTML view, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see this email template generated by MailChimp. It's just a way to throw thanks back to them on who actually originated that email template. So they went through the headache of trying to figure out what overrides need to be in place to just kind of stop some of these email clients from forcing their own styles to the email itself. And they've done a really good job there. So I strongly suggest starting with a boilerplate that will give you those set overrides. But yeah, so that's really, I think, everything I could think of to get you guys off, started off with a good foot on developing your email template. Like I said, if you're having issues, just remember Outlook doesn't respect a lot of the code that browsers do. So you have to kind of take a look at what Outlook respects. I'll throw that link in the description to a resource that shows exactly what tags are supported. And this way you can kind of go through and figure out what you need to remove or add to your template to get it to render correctly. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you have any specific questions or comments in the comment section below. As always, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.